So we are on to our next topic, and we're here to talk about the decks that we're interested in, decks we want to play, and just kind of decks we're seeing there. So I'll kick it over to you. What are your thoughts right now? What's kind of grabbing your attention?
Okay, so I don't want to sound old-fashioned. I really don't. So what really grabbed my attention is when support cards came out for the Dark Magician deck. I was like, okay, hey, wait a minute. I was like, now this has become, in my eyes, it's become a really good top tier deck. And some people might disagree, and that's fine. Everybody has their opinion. Everybody has their opinion in the decks that they play. But for me, I feel like the Dark Magician deck could counter and could go against any
It
deck
did
and do
really well
fairly
in the
well.
KC Cup.
So if you're going to put it on a scale of like one to ten, about how many games you would win, I would say the Dark Magician deck. If you put it against a properly built Dark Magician deck, it's going to be 50-50. And again, some people are going to say, nope, you're totally wrong, and that's not right. I'm just going off of my opinion and my feel, and basically the duels that I've been in.
Yeah.
So I'm really focusing on making my Dark Magician deck really good and really competitive so I can hit King of Games and then I can feel like I'm doing something. So that's
Yep.
the deck that I'm really focusing in on right now. And I know there's a ton of other decks, and I know people are like, hey, that's kind of old fashioned, but that's a deck that really vibes with me. And so I think at the end of the day, if there's a deck that really vibes with you, regardless of what anybody says or what you read on a website, as long as you like it and you feel like you can make it better, then do it. Because you never know what might come about that deck. And people might be like, oh, we never thought about that idea. And next thing you know, that deck is like top tier.
Yep. Any others that back of your mind that you're like interested in playing? You're really locked in right now with that one,
So no, I'm really locked in with that one right now. And then I'm
which I
actually
love.
playing the Elemental Heroes, but that deck is like all over the place for me right now. So I have yet to build like a solid Elemental Heroes deck with all the needed cards.
That is one of the. I actually just put a review up a few days ago after playing with that Heroes deck for all of last month, and I did one at the beginning of the month, a review, but I did a more like detailed one at the end of the month after all of my experiences with it. And
Hmm.
one of the ratings I've been giving it, like any deck I review, is like the ease of obtaining or difficulty to obtain. And I had
Hmm.
like difficulty of like 4 to 5 out of 5 to get it because there's Dark Magician fusion cards from like so many different boxes, and you have to go through, and they're like all URs, and they're difficult to get. Yeah, heroes are always going to be getting like more support, but at the same time, that means to play like the meta deck of heroes, you often have to go through so many different boxes to put it together. So that is the biggest drawback, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I have a King of Games or a King of Games deck, a Dark Magician's deck that was top 100 in the KC Cup like consistently. I think there's a few different versions that were really similar that I just started playing with. Put it in the back
Hmm.
burner for now, but I might put out a review with that deck in there. So if it's any interest, I could definitely link it over when it comes together.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But no, I totally agree. It's fun, and I think like I talk about competitiveness and that's kind of my mindset, but at the same time, like you need to be playing a deck that you enjoy. Like if you're not having fun playing a game in your free time, like do something else instead. Either play a different game or go have a different hobby. Like I don't mean to get too like philosophical here, but like you should be playing something you enjoy, or else it's not going to be a good experience. And there are so many options. Like we talked about in the last segment, how like often in the meta there's like 5 to 10 decks that are really common. You don't
Hmm.
have to just be like, oh, this one's the top tier right now. I need to play with it. Like yeah, if you want to get to King of Games the first time, that's probably a decent place to start. But like it needs to fit your playstyle. Like you need to be in tune with it, kind of like methodologically, like understand the way it's played. And if it's a really strong attacking deck, like maybe
Hmm.
that fits your personality, or maybe it's a little more defensive and you like that too. Like there is a level of fit that you should have. So I agree with those points there. Now I'm starting to put out some content right now with the Orcus deck that came out with Soulflare Lightning, the main box that came out. What was it? The last day of April there. So
Hmm.
deck is really strong. It's combining Link Summoning and Exceed Summoning. There's a million different ways to play it, and I really think it's going to be taking over the meta. But I actually kind of like it in the sense that like you have some decks that like this is the deck list, like this is the way that it's built, and that's how you play it. This is not that at
Hmm.
all. I've been seeing people playing it with the Crystal Beast engine, which is like I've always wanted to play Crystal Beast competitively, but they're not there.
Hmm.
The latest version I've been playing is with like the rocket monsters and also some like nightmare monsters together. So I think it's cool when you can have like the core cards to a deck and then also like be able to do flexibly and fit your personality, but also like try to find your own way to bring it to life. I think that like when that element of deck creation is alive, I think the game is better in general.
Hmm.
This is more about like me personally. I'm trying to find a good balance. So like up to this month, I've played one deck through the whole month, got into King of Games, put out content in that, and I'm trying to vary it up a little bit because so many new decks come out over and over that I want to get experience with and also like bring to my channel and show people how they're played. Like right now, so I also have that Dark Magician's deck that I mentioned there that I started playing with a little bit. I mentioned Orcus, but I also have the Sulpha Cord deck, which did really well in the KC Cup. Um, haven't had a ton of time to play with it, but it's reminding me a little bit of like the Ancient Gear decks where like you can attack and ignore your opponent's back row and they can't activate cards until like the end, which is like it makes it for
Hmm.
really quick duels because like stuff can't get activated. Like
Right.
it's kind of nice there.
Yeah.
S Force came out in the recent main box there, so like I want to look into it a little more. I don't know a ton about it, but I've collected some of the cards by just going through the boxes as it is, and I think it could be fun. I've heard it can be pretty good. And
Hmm.
then the other one that really caught my eye that I'm building, but it's already like number 4 or 5 on my list here. I'll probably never get to it. Is Trickstars. I know they were out a little while ago with kind of Blue Angel when the character was released, but I know that also the light stage card when you could get the Vrain's characters up to level 35 was released. So
Hmm.
like now it's a bit more powerful. I've seen players like play it in tournaments, get up to King of Games with it pretty easily, and it's also like a little bit of a burn deck where it has like that effect for cards that are getting played. You can subtract 100 or 200 life points from your opponent, so like it's that factor of like you're doing the math of what cards you can play versus what you can't play.
Hmm.
So all of that to say, I want to try to find a way to play more decks, and if again, flashing back to the last segment we talked about of like if you could have more competitive rankings and that stuff, like I would also be more inclined to play more decks a month if that were the case because to me, I feel like I've really accomplished something with the deck if I go through the legend rankings and get to King of Games with a deck. I don't I don't want to play to like Legend 3 and be like, "Oh, I'll do a new deck." Like I really want to feel like I've gotten good enough with that deck to get it all the way there.
Hmm.
But of course, you can only do that with one deck a month and with the how quickly cards are getting released, like you can't cover every deck that way. So I'm in a problem. I guess it's a good problem to have, but that's where I'm at right now.
Hey, maybe that might be another mechanic to actually put make a suggestion about is, hey, maybe it's not the player that gets king of games, but it's the deck that
Yeah,
gets king of games. Because what if you want to continue? What if you have another deck, like you just said, that you want to try to get king of games with? And so that might be an actually really good idea. Like it didn't dawn on me until you said that. I was like, hey, wait, maybe we should start doing the deck gets king of games, not the actual player itself.
yeah,
Because what if the player wants to continue, playing or wants to try to get king of games with another deck?
right.
So yeah, no, that would be good. And then as far as decks just in general, I really have to expand my time and research and getting different decks because there's so many decks that have been released that I feel like once I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I like this deck. And then I start researching it and trying to build it. Then like five other decks come out, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
well, I kind of like those ones too. And this is how I get lost. So I think, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people go through this where
Oh yeah,
there's
yeah.
it's kind of like the this deck, and then you're like, oh no, this deck, and then now you have like six different half-built decks, and you're like, I don't know which one to
Oh
focus
yeah.
on. So I think I just need to focus on one and build it all the way through so that I know, how it works and then get the synergy
Yeah.
for it and then move on to the next one. But I mean, there's so many good decks I want to play with that's where I get lost, but I need to just focus in on that.
And that is yeah, and really good point. I love the focus on one, and especially like it that is the way to really like level up. It's you can get the right cards and arrangement, but like I think my number is usually like between 50 and 100 of number of duels to play with the deck before I really feel comfortable. Like you can read
Hmm.
card effects and understand like attack points and stuff, but like when a deck is really optimized, like there are dots that connect all over the board, and sometimes you don't even realize them until you've had that much experience with it. And
Yeah.
that's when you truly feel like you're getting the most out of it. And like I do the deck reviews on my channel, but at the same time, I hate doing a deck review with a deck that I don't feel 100% comfortable talking about, like ins
Hmm.
and outs and way it plays and this and that. And like there are people that'll be like, here, they'll put out a video and be like, here's the deck to play and here's the cards with it. Like, but the deck came out 2 days ago. Like you haven't played 100 duels with it. Like you haven't had time to think these things through thoroughly. Like
Hmm.
I know there are Master Duel players and TCG players, and I'm not trying to like critique anyone too much, but me personally, I just don't want to release a deck review until it's just like a deck that I am so comfortable with and can like truly speak about deeply. So my perspective there, but yeah, I really like King Dark Magicians for you. I think it's an awesome one. I saw a number of people in the top 100 of the last KC Cup were using it. It's very kind
Hmm.
of fast, where you can continually use quick play spell cards and go from one card to the next. So yeah, I know I'd love to take a look at the deck that you put together when you have it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure thing, man. Yeah. I'll definitely send you over the profile and we can talk about it.
Cool.